Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to Know Your Gear QA Live, number 223. 223 episodes. It's coming along. It's definitely coming along. I hope everybody had a great week. I had a good week. It was my birthday week, and my wife will probably disagree, but I feel like I didn't work that much this week. Kind of took some time here and there, and it was really nice. But I say that because every time I say that, she says, I don't think you understand. Sometimes I do get carried away with what I got to get done. But exciting stuff. What's going on? I have some updates for you from last week's episode. Obviously, there is people here with already questions in queue, so we'll have some subjects to talk about. And what else? Thought there was something else. I don't know. Maybe not. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out as we'll go. How about that? Neil says, what did you get? Oh, for my birthday. Well, I got a coffee maker. It's a coffee maker I've been wanting since 2019. In fact, so you know, this is a true story. I saw this. I had this cappuccino in this machine at a friend's house, fell in love with it, took a picture of it. That's how I know it was 2019. It was June in 2019. And I took a picture of my phone, you know, to get the brand and stuff. Went home, Googled it, had a conniption fit, I guess is what you call it. Like, let's just say I was taken back by the price. And, you know, over the years, last couple of years, I've had, you know, my wife's been egging me on, friends have been egging me on to get it. During COVID, I thought maybe, you know, I'd get it. Stuff like that is a little tough for me. Like I said, I'm self-employed. So even when I'm doing well, there's this fear or hint of like the next month or the next quarter won't be well. So, you know, you're always kind of sitting on your success a little bit. You know, whenever I have a good, you know, good month or good quarter, it's like, let's just wait to see how this plays out. Anyways, long story short, I needed a new phone, went and got a new phone. And my new phone is my first phone in like 4 years. And the phone doesn't have an 1/8 inch jack anymore. This is it's a Droid or whatever, but it doesn't have a jack. So I have no way to play our headphones. And so we had to go to get Bluetooth headphones. And my wife says to me, hey, while we're here, we're at the Best Buy. She's like, while we're here, let's see if they have their coffee machine here. And then I actually said to her, I said, they wouldn't have that here. This is too nice of a machine. And we walked around the corner and it was the first machine there. So she bought it for me. So I got a really nice coffee that lets me make cappuccinos and coffees like on the fly. Kind of like a Keurig, but no cups. That's what I like about it. No plastic cups, none of that stuff. It just does it, grinds it, and does everything on the fly. So very cool, very exciting for me because, like I said, to say that you got a nice coffee maker is probably exciting to say, but to say that you finally got the one you've been kind of pining over for 2 years, very cool. So that was my big expense and birthday gift. And then my daughter made me cupcakes, and the family took me to breakfast one of the days. So very cool week, to say the least. And I got some, you know what, another thing is I got some new pickups, which probably doesn't sound exciting, but it is exciting to me. As you guys know, I've got a few Kiesels over the last few years. You know, I bought a couple, Kiesel sent a couple, and you know, being new to the brand, you have to learn things. And, you know, I've now experimented and I feel I'm pretty confident in what I like. I like the lithium pickups over the beryllium pickups. It's just my choice. And at first I was kind of thinking maybe I like them. The lithium pickups are a little bit more aggressive sounding. And I thought maybe I like them, you know, for the aggressive stuff, and then maybe the berylliums or whatever for the cleaner stuff. And really, to be honest, I just like the lithium pickups. So I reached out to Kiesel, and because they didn't have them on their website, and I asked if I could get some pickups. So I just got some new pickups. So in my Kiesel behind me, I'm pointing to a Kiesel behind me that has berylliums. I'm going to be switching them out to lithiums. And then on my Delos, which has beryllium, I'm going to switch it out to lithium. But the good news for you guys is, there's two good news. I went to purchase the pickups, and Brandon at Kiesel was like, no problem, man. I'll send them straight to you. And I want to thank them for doing that. That was really kind. They had nothing to get out of this, by the way. He just offered to do it. And but the reason why it's good for you guys is when he did that, I sent him a response email. I said, hey, man, thanks for doing that. Since I have sets of berylliums and lithiums now, and I have the guitar that lets me change out pickups, I'll do a video comparing the two pickups, and that way give the audience a video, so if they decide to order Kiesel, maybe they can hear the differences between those two humbuckers. So there you go. So I'll be making that video since I have the sets. So there you go. So that's my week. That's the update. As always, I should mention that if you're new and you're trying to talk to me, or at least start a subject, put a question mark first so I know it's just directed at me. Obviously, I try to address all the super chats as well. And the super chats are just a way of people supporting the channel. So thank you for that. Thank you so much. Chris says, Phil tells us guitar nerds that pickups are less exciting than a coffee maker. Well, it's not that they're less exciting. I'm not defending that statement. What I'm saying is I didn't wait 2 years for these pickups. So, I probably spent 2 days in buyer's remorse of the coffee machine. So that's just something that happens, right? Right. You just go, do I really need a coffee maker? I have a nice coffee maker already. So, all right, let's get, thank you guys all. So many of you guys. Thank you guys so much for the birthday wishes. Really, really kind of you. Very nice. So first thing we got to talk about for sure, there's a couple subjects that were obviously emailed to me all week. And of course you're already echoing them now. A couple things. First, what happened with the amp that I bought from Guitar Center last week? Well, I'm pleased to announce that it was kind of how I figured it would go. I reached out to Guitar Center. I did have to reach out to him twice. I'm just giving you the story, okay? It ends positive, but I want to give you the details. So I reached out through the email, just their customer service email saying, hey, I have this issue. This is before I even told you guys on Friday. And then before I told you guys on Friday, I also went to their email address for returns and then emailed them saying that I had the issue with the amp showed up. It's missing the foot switch. It's missing the manual. It's missing other things. And it's, and what I didn't know until after I had done the live show on Friday, the tubes weren't in the amp. They were bubble wrapped and somebody bubble wrapped each tube and then put them inside the amp. Not a problem because they're safe, but I'm just giving you the details. So didn't hear anything back. After the Friday show, I did hear something back. I didn't get the impression that it was because they reacted to the show. I'm just giving you guys my thoughts. I got the impression it was just customer service got a hold of me. The gentleman on customer service was not like a manager or anybody high up at Guitar Center by any means. It was just somebody who handles this kind of thing and said, but he did say, hey, I know the channel. Thank you. I'm thanking him, I should say. He said, hey, I know your channel. I like it. He said, that sucks that it happened. Yeah, somebody should have contacted you. So let's back up again. So what we're talking about is what happened to me was I ordered a $3,000 amp. I mentioned on Friday that it was expensive. I didn't talk about how expensive. The only reason I'm telling you now is because I've had a couple comments going both directions on this, and I want you to understand the weight of the issue. This amp was $2,900 and change is what I paid for the amp. Like I said, it was I had some gift cards. I had some, I just wanted to make this purchase. So anyways, the important part of the story was they sent one that was a store one from a store, but it was missing the foot switch, manual, and other things. The amp was not damaged, nor did it seem to have any issues. However, it wasn't in the original box, and that's going to make sense in a minute why I mentioned that. So anyways, they responded saying that somebody should have contacted me from Guitar Center, especially the store, saying that what's going to be sent to me is going to be a store demo. And that's kind of what we talked about last Friday. Why would you, if you bought something new online, why would you think they would send you a store demo unless they disclose that? Something I want to point out, I want to kind of tell you why I'm happy with how Guitar Center treated me, but I also want to kind of stay on this one subject that's important, which is this policy, right? And that's really what we're talking about with Guitar Center is a policy, because the employees were hands down perfect. I ended up dealing with the Mesa Guitar Center store yesterday. Fantastic employees, fantastic experience with that whole exchange. The employee that emailed back and forth, fantastic experience, fantastic exchange. When it comes to the employees, like I said, I have a lot of friends that work at Guitar Center. The employees were not only great, but you could sense that they're not altogether on board with this policy decision, right? Now, the policy, the way I understand it is that if you order something on Musician's Friend or GuitarCenter.coms and it states it's new, we're not talking about open box, we're talking about brand new product. If you order it and it's brand new, they have it in the warehouse brand new, you get it. However, if it says that it's in stock and you buy it and they don't have any brand new in the warehouse, they will ship you whatever they have in inventory if that includes being at a store. Now, in this case, they said they talked to the store that sent it and the store had lost the manual and the foot switch, and that's why it wasn't in the box. And they said somebody should have called me and let me know that they have the amp, it's coming, but it doesn't have those items. The interesting thing about this, I want to talk about this. There's an interesting thing. Since doing this, and I'm going to get to my story too, but I want to just tell you, I have never, in 223 episodes, ever experienced what I've experienced in this last week from you guys, which was the onslaught of comments and emails from you guys. I'm saying this because you always think, and sometimes maybe, Guitar Center executive, somebody at Guitar Center, musician friend will hear this podcast maybe one day. Who knows? If they're listening, the customers, these guitar players are not happy with this policy. That is very clear. In fact, it's not the policy that you guys have, like, hey, in today's pandemic situation, if you have an open box buy and that's what you send to somebody, no one seems upset with that. People are upset with they paid full price for what they thought was a new product in box without any kind of discussion, notice, in other words, saying, hey, it just shows up. And almost in every case, this is important, in almost every case of every story I heard from you guys, everyone's story echoed exactly what happened to me, and that's what I'm going to tell you now, which is I contacted them. They were very kind. They basically offered me a full refund, and I can return it. They would send me an ARIA label. They even extended out the offer to have a UPS driver pick it up. However, my problem was, if you guys saw the thumbnail from last week's video, if you saw the picture, the amp was shipped in a box that was too thin. And so it got here safe, but that box was not making it back. And so, apparently, which is good to know if you don't know this, if you receive an item from Guitar Center, Musician's Friend, I think it's got to be Guitar Center, but yeah, it might be Musician's Friend, check on that, but you could take it to the store. So I just drove it down to the store. The store was, of course, extremely pleasant. I've dealt with the Mesa guys before. Mesa, Arizona is what I mean, that Guitar Center. Super, super awesome guys. They understood. One of them, I think, even kind of implied maybe he saw the podcast on Friday. And like I said, they were just perfect. They took care of everything, refunded the money back on my cards. Everything was fine. And, life just carried on. In fact, I stayed in the store for probably about 20 minutes looking around to see if there was anything I could purchase, because I try to exchange, you know what I mean? But I kind of just still want this amp. So that brings me to the second part. Guitar Center offered that when they do get the amps in September new, they offered me, I think, a 10% discount. I'm guessing it may be a 15%, but they offer me a discount if I want to purchase one that is new in box when they do receive them. So that all was the experience. Again, like I said on Friday, wasn't upset, wasn't concerned, but I wanted to share that I've heard this story from you guys and that I've heard it and discussed it, but when it happens to me for real, for me, then it's not okay, this is probably going on because 10 people told me or 20 people told me. This is going on because it actually happened. I mean, I physically saw it happen, so I know it's happening. So anyways, the point of this, first to give you an update is that I think, and they did say at the Mesa store, same thing echoed sentiment of the online representative, which is the store that shipped the amp should have contacted me in some way via phone call or email and stated that, hey, we have one. It's an unboxed item. It's missing some stuff, and let me know ahead of time. So again, and And my big thing wasn't the price on the amp. That's a big deal, the price. My big thing was, as you guys know, in 6 months to a year, 2 years, if I end up not loving this amp, I go to sell it used, I'm going to take a big hit financially for not having the items that come with the amp. And so, of course, you're like, I need some kind of financial adjustment for the missing items myself. You know what I mean? So in other words, if that's it, and to be honest, in this case, I wouldn't have took the financial adjustment because at this price point, you just want you want to have it complete is basically what I'm trying to say. But back to I was really shocked to have how many people echoed that this is very commonplace with Guitar Center and their new policies with Musician's Friend. And so, again, this is the good news, though. There is good news. One, I want to say that they took care of me, not because I have a YouTube channel. They seem to be very that's just seemed how to be the policy to take care of somebody. The emails I received, the comments on that video I received from you guys echo that as well. That's good. However, the only one negative is this policy sucks. The reason it sucks, and I've thought about this all week, is because there's nothing wrong with when you walk in a store and sometimes there's an amp on display or a guitar on display. We've all bought a new product that's something on display. That makes sense. However, it's strange to me to have a website where I go on it and on multiple items it'll show like a new in box, to say new, and then it'll say open box buy as a discount. And then for some reason you can buy the open box buy and get a discount, but if you click new because you don't want that choice, they might send you the open box buy and see what you say. It's a very strange thing. It does kind of feel a little, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the words to say. The correct word. The correct word, I guess I want to say is, it seems shady as a policy. I haven't seen anyone else pull that yet. So interesting things. But I'm sure you guys will have lots of comments as you did last week. Thank you guys so much. I watched your videos too. A lot of you guys actually had videos talking about the same situation. I did watch those videos. A lot of you said, like Sean saying now, bait and switch, stuff like that. Look, I get that. In this case, I don't really think, again, I'm not trying to exonerate them. I'm trying to tell you that in the experience I had with them, I really feel like, I hate to say this, is more of an incompetence or a breakdown in communication system. In other words, they just weren't set up correctly to properly inform me. And just sucks. It's just a weird thing. Besides, Studio says, you can say BS, Phil. Well, again, I don't agree with the policy. Let's start there. I really think it's bad. Like I said, it feels shady. It doesn't seem right. I would never accept that from any other company that isn't a guitar company. My wife, the analogy I used with my wife, because I was explaining this, what happened to me, I was telling her, could you imagine she bought some prescription Maui Jim sunglasses that she needed because she's needed prescription, and they were expensive. I said, could you imagine they just showed up and they don't have the case and they're used? You know what I mean? And you called them and they're like, oh yeah, sometimes if we just have them laying around, we just send those instead. You'd be like shocked, right? Like I said, I'm honestly shocked that this is a policy to send somebody open box items that can be missing stuff. Some cases, according to your guys' stories, used items. I mean, it's really crazy. Zabar says, don't defend them. It's not defense. It's it's an even-headed response. I'm not going to scream. That's not my nature. I'm not going to scream, oh my God, they should be destroyed as a company. And I'm also not going to give them a pass on it. What I'm saying is, honestly, is that this policy doesn't seem to be liked by the customers. We know how that's going to end. Your customers are going to make a choice whether you like it or not. Personally, I told the Guitar Center people, and all the employees were very kind when I said this, I'm really not interested in doing business with them again, other than I still have these gift cards that I still have to kind of burn off. So I did do that, by the way. After the amp, I ordered some Music Nomad not industrial, but the large bottle polishes. I got the 23-ounce guitar polish and F1 oil. And so I'm just getting accessories and stuff. Since all right. But again, like I said, put your comments down below. I think if I was working at Guitar Center, and not as an employee, but as an executive or in some kind of management to make change at the company, if I would have watched last week's comments, and I'm sure this week's too, I would take heed and realize that this is not going to last if you want guitar players to keep buying from you. So... trying to understand a question. It's Joseph says, I don't know if it ties to this. He says, Philip, you look like you are getting more guitars from the amount shown today. Nope. I have less guitars today than I did a month ago, which I have less guitars that I did. I always remind everybody, I have less guitars now than when I started my channel. I just display them differently. Like I said, they used to be in one row on the top, and then now they're in both rows because I just put them in one spot. Okay, any comments or anything before we go to the next subject? Arthur says, what about Sweetwater? I don't know. I've never had this experience with Sweetwater at all, or AMS, or Sam Ash. I've never had an experience. So, I've never even heard of this. I have never heard of in a million years, anywhere, a concept where you buy something new on a website and what shows up is open store stock merchandise. That is... unheard of in anything. I can't even connect it to like another industry. I have no concept of this. The only reason I think Guitar Center can think this is acceptable is because people do walk into Guitar Center. We walk into Guitar Center and we buy the new guitar that's on the wall, and of course it's been demoed, and we do walk out that. However, the interesting part about that is when you're buying online. This is like I said, this is where it's a little strange. When you're buying online, usually when you buy something used, even from Guitar Center, when you buy something used from Guitar Center, they take an actual picture of the item you're buying. So at least you have some kind of, like for instance, that amp, if I would have bought it used from Guitar Center, they would have took an actual picture of it and it would have stated, in most cases, missing foot switch. So I would have some kind of expectation other than I just bought a brand new item. And what showed up was the display missing things. So like I said, it's so the question is, what about Sweetwater? I have no idea. Until I hear stories that Sweetwater do it too, I have no idea, but I've never seen it. Ian says they have demo deals at Sweetwater. Well, of course, like I said, they have demo deals at Guitar Center. They have open box buys at Guitar Center. That's why I said, that's why it's confusing to use terminology. I'm using their own terminology. Guitar Center has new, open box, used, and then they have like demoed, right? Like returns, which is like open box. And they're not even following that rule. So BB Ninja says, Philip, not just shady, more like against retail law as it's an illegal. Here's where it gets different. It says, okay, so you're talking about Switzerland. In the US, this is where it gets a little tricky. The law is very weird because we have 50 states and there's 50 different kind of there's one main consumer law and then there's 50 different kinds of consumer laws. Because I saw a lot of you guys' comments talking about how illegal this is. People on the internet love this just state stuff's illegal. They just like to say things. This is one thing that you realize later in life, that just because you say it's illegal or something's illegal, and again, BB, I know you're in a different country. Just because somebody states something is illegal doesn't mean it's illegal. This is where it gets tricky, right? If they are sending an actual used piece of gear that they bought from a consumer, right? It's illegal. And I want to tell you a story because this is an actual story that I can tell you for a fact that happened, and this is where it gets a little tricky. So I had a Fender Strat in my store, and I've told you this story. I've actually told you part of this story, where it got damaged. That's the story. If you want to go back to an old podcast, I'll talk about, you can see why it got damaged. Customer drops a guitar, it gets damaged. Actually, a couple guitars get damaged. I, as the retailer, take the financial hit. Okay, the person dropped the merchandise. It was damaged. I disclosed that it was damaged. I discounted it. It was damaged, and I told the customer that was buying it that it was damaged merchandise, and I sold it as used. Okay. And I hate telling you guys this story because I hate giving the wrong people good information. So, but I feel like the story warrants it because it connects. So what happened, and like I said, there was multiple guitars damaged, right? One of them I told you I sold to a friend who still has that guitar. The other person was I sold it to just a random customer, again, disclosing that it was damaged in the store and it was used, it was void of warranty. I disclosed all that. It was on the invoice. The customer took the guitar, contacted Fender immediately, said it was damaged and wanted a new one. Fender replaced it with a new one. Fender contacted me, right? Told me, that they're swapping it and that they're sending it to my store for the swap out. And I said, no, it's not new. It was damaged in the store. If his invoice, because you need proof of invoice for warranty, I put on the invoice, used, damaged, it's not under warranty. Fender said, but we sold that guitar new to you. You are the official dealer. It's still new. We're warranting it. Now, I tell you that story because that's great on Fender. The customer actually knew this, by the way. They figured all this out. They already knew that when they bought it from me that they could just call. So what ended up happening with that was they didn't replace the guitar, by the way. What ended up happening was there was a chip in the headstock. The customer got Fender to send me a brand new neck. I had to put the new neck on the guitar, reset the guitar up, and then the customer got a brand new guitar, even though they paid me the used, damaged price. The reason is when I talked to Fender, what I was trying to do was protect everybody. I was trying to say, hey, look, Fender, this is my mistake. We dropped it. We damaged it. Well, not us, but it was damaged in our store. Fender basically told me they didn't care. They said, we're just going to take care of the customer. It's a new product and we'll take care of it. The reason I tell you that is a lot of times, although I've heard contrary stories to those kind of stories, what I will tell you is that's where it gets a little tricky. A lot of times when you guys say, oh, it's open box, so it's not new, not even the manufacturers follow that rule for the most part. In fact, what I've learned since then, and I'll tell you this now, a lot of times when stores telling you stuff that's not warranted, it is warranted, because what I found is if it's a reputable company, they find it pretty much follow the warranty no matter what. So, like I said, the area of when stuff is new and used is very tricky. I heard a story, and I know this kind of going long for this little segment, but I heard a story from a viewer today who sent a video. I'll put a link to the video where he told a story about how he got an amp used like me. He bought a new one. They sent a demo one, but in this case, the previous customer had it for 6 months, and it had a deficiency in it. And so he was saying the same thing, like, this is a used amp now. The customer had it for 6 months and then returned it, and it was, had an issue. The problem is, I agree with what he's saying, but the laws really are a little tricky on when the return policies are, because you got to understand a return policy is just a policy. So it's a little tricky. Like I said, I'm sure a lot of people have comments on it, but I'm telling you, as someone who's sold millions of dollars worth of stuff over a period of time and seen all the ways it goes down, I'm telling you, I'm going to bet on what I'm saying over what most of you are saying. Unless, of course, I don't know, things have changed in the last few months. Let's see. John perfectly said. He said here he had an old law professor who had a great joke about the law. What does a senior citizen and the law have in common? Depends. Yeah, that's about the way it goes. So there you go. The important part of this is this. It's kind of like I tell you guys on this channel, we've talked about, this many 223 podcasts. Guitar Centers come up a lot of times, mostly in a negative context. And again, they're pretty much the biggest game in town around the country. That's why we talk about them. That's why we use them. But, hopefully they'll be changing things. Hopefully. All right. And then I just want to, because again, Mark said the customer is a scumbag in your story. Well, what's funny is, I have to say this just so you know, just so you guys know how I feel about this. It was very enlightening to me. It was it's like I said, you think, when I tell you guys stories, when I show you guys in videos, when I've done things when I've illustrated repairs, when I've talked about companies and policies and the way the industry kind of works, I want you to know this is from lots and lots of failures. You know what I mean? I'm not a smart person by any means. I'm just very experienced in a lot of things. And I mean, experience in a horrible way. Like I said, I've experienced a lot of things. And I pass that on to you guys, hopefully, so that you guys don't have to deal with either. I was shocked. What I learned from that, though, was that Fender will pretty much take care of customers. And I still stand by that today. If you have a bad experience with Fender, I've said this many times on the show, you're probably not talking to Fender directly. As a company, they try to take the high road a lot. It's why they're so big and successful. Okay, next subject before we get to some other smaller subjects. So interesting things came up this week. One of the things came up, and you guys are talking about, Eric the Red's talking about it too, is that Kirk Hammet is going with Gibson. If you guys haven't heard, he's going to be following the Dave Mustaine to Gibson, another high-profile player over to the Gibson brand. I read the article, considering you guys had mentioned it so many times, I thought we would talk about it today. So I read the article, and interesting enough, there's more to the story that I thought was interesting. Not only is he going to Gibson, or he's going to be working with Gibson, making some more guitars and being some kind of endorsed artist, but he's unofficially, in other words, I haven't heard anything contrary to this, but it's in the article, he's not leaving ESP as well. So he'll be still keeping with ESP, but also be working with Gibson. I think this is fantastic. This is an interesting thing, and I'm not shocked to hear this. And again, I hope this is true. I hope this is true, that he'll be doing dual endorsement contracts, I guess, with two manufacturers. This seems like how it should have been years ago. What's funny about this is this industry, believe it or not, I would have never known this if it wasn't for this YouTube gig. Man, when I started reviewing guitars and doing videos, I remember the first couple times I heard it, I was not really digesting what I was listening to with manufacturers. So for instance, the first time I think I ever heard it was, I don't know if I want to say the brands. So let me just keep it clean. But here's what happened. I had a brand talk to me once, and they said, yeah, we'd love to have our product on your channel, but obviously you like this brand. And they said that to me like somehow I'm connected to that brand, like an endorsement deal would be, right? And be very clear, an endorsement deal is far different than anything like my channel. And again, I'll say most channels on YouTube are going to be like my channel. Most, okay? Okay, there's different deals for sure. But in my channel, it's all about exposure of products to you guys. The more products I can expose to you guys, the better for me, the more content I can make. And that's good. And if I can make consistently more content, I get more views, and that's good for me because not only it grows the channel, which gets, it's just putting gas on a fire. The funny thing was, I didn't think much about that until it happened again with another product. I think the next time was a pedal company. Same thing. The pedal company says, oh, we'd love to send you out a pedal, but obviously you like this pedal brand. And I was really shocked by this, and because I didn't really understand what they were saying. And then slowly I figured it out. What they were basically saying is kind of like this. Kirk Hammet plays LTD, or ESP LTD. So he doesn't play other guitars, but obviously he does. We see his Instagrams. We see him I've seen him in concert. He does have Gibsons. They do play other guitars. This is like the old days of if you want to be an endorser of our brand, you can only be seen in our brand. And I've heard and seen stories where that is exactly true. The artist isn't allowed to play anything but that brand. They can't be seen in pictures with that brand. I've actually, not to route anybody out, but I've actually hung out with some professional musicians in a YouTube context and specifically had to edit out video of them with other products because later I was asked to, as a courtesy, hey, we can't see that. We can't have that artist seen with a different product. They're with this brand. And I always thought that was the stupidest thing ever. Not for the artist. I understand the artist doing that. These artists, look, the artists have to make money every way they can. If you don't understand that, then you're just not an artist. Please trust us when we say, if you want to entertain people for a living, you have to figure out as many ways to make money as possible because it's just a very uncertain environment in how you make money and how much you'll make and how long you'll make it. So artists creating as many revenue streams as possible is just part of the business. But what's interesting is I've always thought now with the YouTube arena, that should go away because, for instance, and again, since I have stories, I'll tell you a story. This is a true story. An artist that I know really well works with a company that I know, and just so happened the company knew the artist knew me. In other words, the company knows the artist knows me. They asked him for a favor. They reached out to the artist and said, "Hey, can you get Phil McKnight this product, and to see if he'd be interested in doing a video with it?" So he contacted me and said, "Hey, I have this thing. They want you to check it out." And I'm like, "Absolutely. Yeah. Next time I see you, I'll grab it. Well, I'll do a video." And he's like, "Oh, okay, cool." Now, out of curiosity, when he gave me the product, he said to me, "So how does this work?" And I said, "Well, how does what work?" And he goes, how does it work? Like, they're giving me this product to give to you. I don't really want to know your business, but, I'm kind of curious." And I said, "Sure. Well, I haven't talked to them yet, but sometimes they send a product and I do a video and then I get to keep it. And sometimes they want it back." Right. And he's like, "Okay." And he goes, "Well, how long do you have to, use it?" And I go, "Well, I have to make a video with it." And he goes, "Yeah, but how long do you have to keep it?" And I go, "Oh, you have to make a video with it." I said, "It depends. Like, if they want it back after the video's done, they get it back. If they don't want it back, you just keep it." He seemed really shocked by this because he's like, "In my dealings, when you have a product, you have to use that product for a certain amount of time, and everybody has to see you with it so many times." And I said, "Yeah, but that's not kind of how YouTube works. You make a video and the video is just always out there. So that's how they see it." So the point of this is that the artists have actually, and some YouTube channels that I were talking once, this is about a year or two ago, about 2 years ago. We were talking about the fact that the artists are actually getting screwed because they're getting contracts that are way more intense than just some average YouTube guy who's, doesn't have the influence or power of an actual artist. In my opinion, that's just my opinion. I don't want to offend any YouTube channels out there, but in my opinion, like, a true artist is going to have a deeper, stronger influence than some jack off on YouTube. But we do live in a climate where we get to hang out, and it's you get this opportunity, which is what I'm doing right now, talking to you guys. So my point is, I'm really excited about this Kirk Hammet deal. I think this is really cool. I think this is where I'm really proud of this as a musician, because I think, look, we already know he was playing some Gibsons. We already know he had the green meanie, right? That's what it was, the greenie. I think it's the greenie, his 59 Les Paul. Excuse me if I'm wrong on the name. I think that's what do you call it? I think that's great that he's now going to work with Gibson, because we already know he's playing with Gibsons. Somebody mentioned, and I hope I didn't get it wrong, somebody was mentioning George Lynch a little while ago. Same thing. George Lynch was with Randall. He's with ESP, but yet we've seen George Lynch playing Gibsons. We've seen him playing Marshalls. He obviously has an affection for Marshalls. So to hear that there's a dual relationship, because the reality is these musicians, those endorsement deals, to me, they propagate the bullshit. What they do is they convince everyone that this artist only uses one thing when we know it's not true. It's why I told you guys I'll never do like a Phil McKnight signature guitar amp or something. Like, yeah, this is my guitar. This is the only one I use. How would I make another video? I don't know how to do that. Right? But if maybe the mindset changes to where, yeah, sometimes I like to play my Kiesel, and sometimes I like to play my Gibson, and sometimes I like to play my Keeley, and sometimes I like to play my LPD Lawrence Petros pedal. You know what I mean? That's just the reality. I'm in different moods. I'm allowed to do that. It's an emotional thing. I've been on an SG kick now for like 2 weeks. I've been playing like nothing but my SG. I don't know where it is right now. I keep moving it back and forth the other room, but I've been playing like crazy. That doesn't mean all of a sudden I don't like my other guitars. It just means that's what mood I'm in. So, and then Nick says, "Are you getting the super chats?" I always get the super chats. Like I said, the super chats just guarantee the show's length. I try not to do, you know what I mean? The super chats are bonus, is what I'm trying to say. Okay. Alex said, "Artists are regular dudes too." And yes, and that's kind of my point. We're not, again, kind of like the Guitar Center speech again earlier about, the customer doesn't seem to like the way that policy works. I don't think any musicians here, any guitar players, bass players, drummers, whoever's watching here, believe that an artist only plays one thing. And so, there might be exceptions. We all know there's exceptions. Brian May, Nuno Bittencourt, some of them are pretty hardcore what they play. Don't get me wrong. But as a whole, in the studio, they grab different things. They like to play other things. And just because they have an endorsement deal with a product just means that they like that product maybe the most of the time or the most. So it's great. So that's my 2 cents on that Kirk Hammett announcement. I think it's great. I think it makes sense. I love it. Basically, that's where I'm going to get at. I'm sure they'll make a Gibson with EMGs in it, and I'm sure it will sound great. Who knows? Brad Guitar Miller said, Texas Toast is making me a signature guitar. Man, you don't know the half of it. Just kidding. They are. I am aware of that. I've talked to Matt, and I promise you, if you guys even like this channel like this much, I promise you this is going to be the funniest video you've ever seen. This guitar is going to be so awesome, but also it has a great story behind it. Between me and the Texas Toast guys, which I will tell you in the video. And I have, like I said, I don't know when I'm going to get it or what's going to happen with it, but yes, that's going to happen. And then hopefully that will lead to me being able to drive up to Colorado and hanging out with those guys and doing some content with them and doing something like that. Okay, I just love this. Love this question. When you start a question with "Sorry about my name," I'm assuming it's hard to say. Let's see what it says. The Seth. Oh, it's like the Seth. It looks like Seth Meyers, but it's got a B in there. So Seth M. Byers says, how do you feel about scalloped fingerboards? I scalloped my 7-string. I love it. I really dig scalloped fretboards. My Halo guitar that I had made when Halo made me a guitar, I had the fretboard scalloped from the 12th fret up. And what was great about that in that particular case was, the Halo guys were, crazy. They were like, hey, let's make something crazy. Well, not that. They just said they'll make me whatever I wanted. They were the first company and pretty much still the only company that's ever done that to me, who said, we'll make you whatever you want. And you're like, look, I don't care if you guys got a YouTube channel. I don't care, what your situation in life is. If anyone ever comes up to you and says, hey, we'll make you a guitar, whatever you want, I hope you're smart enough to go, all right. And then hopefully you'll heed my advice, which is I went crazy as I can get. I said, okay, cool. What can I do here? And I said, let's make a Strat body, but telly shaped, telly carves, hollow, mahogany neck, Gibson bridge, Gibson scale length, and then a scalloped 12th fret. I just went all crazy with it, and I love it to this day for that reason. It's all the things I wasn't sure I should do or wanted to do. That if I was being conservative, because when it's your money, you got to be very conservative because you can't. You don't want that to go wrong on you. The fact that they were willing to be so crazy and allow me to be so crazy was really fun. And from that, I've learned a lot about myself as a player and what I like and don't like. And I can tell you right now, I'll eventually. I don't know if I'll ever have a full scalloped like Ingve style guitar. Personal guitar. But I would definitely love the opportunity to get another guitar with a scallop from the 12th fret up again. I really like that. I really do. I love the jokes. Guitar 1952 like scalloped potatoes. Is it scalloped potatoes? Potatoes? I guess that's what it is, right? Scalloped potatoes are weird. All right. We probably should get some super chats now. Let's see. Hold on. I do have a couple other things I want to talk about. Again, like I said, we get to the super chats. This one, I love this one. Mark said, Phil, he's got a DSL 40 combo, I assume, and he's talking about putting a cream back or a green back in it and to get the EVH Led Zeppelin tone. Look, for that amp, I would go cream back. The cream back, to me, has got a little bit more low end response. It's not as fizzy, not as. Very similar speakers, though, to the point where, like, if you put one in each, put a cabinet and you have put one of those each speakers in a cabinet, I couldn't probably disseminate the two very much. But Having both those speakers, I can tell you, the greenback, which I love, sounds great, but the creamback, I think would work with the distortion on a DSL type amp. So that would be my 2 cents. I would go that way. And I think the other thing is, I think the creamback will give you everything you like about the greenback, but then a little bit more, where the greenback will not give you everything that the creamback can do. And then this one I want to answer too, because this is Spencer says, "Hey Phil, what do you think the best tube amp under $700-800 is? Is it the Blackstar Studio 10? Well, I like my Blackstar Studio 10. Like I said, I really like it. It's very Vox-like. The one I have, because remember, there's 3 different versions of the Studio 10, maybe 4, but definitely 3. And I have the EL34 version. I think it's EL34. It might be EL84. Look up the specs. I can't remember off the top of my head. But it might be an EL84, one EL84 making 10 watts. That sounds about right. Anyways, I love it. Would never say it's the best amp under $700. I really, really enjoy that amp. That amp, I like that amp for one reason and one reason only. It punches above its grade. You know what I mean? It punches up. It's literally an amp that I think sounds better than what an amp in that price market should probably sound like. I think it's got a lot of good characteristics to it too. But no, I wouldn't say it's the best. And if you want to know what I think the best one is for $700-800 tube amp, I don't know. I mean, if you're looking at combos, I mean, keep in mind, when you say $700-800, I don't mentally go, oh, you have to buy new. I just go, okay, you can buy used. To me, I mean, I like Fender amps just as much. So any of the Fender amps that you can find in that price range would be really cool. I'm actually curious, maybe checking out some orange amps soon. When I say checking out, I'm thinking about buying my first orange amp. So maybe I'll get one and I'll give you feedback on that. And then this one's again, Michael said another question I thought was interesting. He said, I've seen some new upgrades on the Spark. And I did too. I saw like a sponsored ad or something, on my Instagram or whatever. So I'm assuming it's the same thing you saw. And he says it's got new amps and clone pedals. Any thoughts? I haven't checked it out. I haven't checked out the upgrades. I can tell you that Airstep reached out and asked me if I would check out, I already have the Airstep pedal. They asked me if I would do another video with the Airstep pedal and the Spark and the fact that they work together now Bluetooth-wise. And I thought, oh, that'd be a great way to kind of revisit and check a lot of boxes. Like a lot of you guys asked me if I still like my Spark, and I can address that in the video. This show you guys how this foot switch works. I thought, okay, check that box, and then also do some upgrades like that and see what I think of the new upgrades in the pedal. So yeah, I'll work on that. I have it downstairs. I'll get to it as soon as I'm done with what I'm doing now. And then this one is just because I wanted to answer this. The home guitarist says, hey, Phil, on my Ibanez JS1000, which is, I have one too, right there, JS1000, Joe Satriani 1000. Ibanez, pinch harmonics and high natural ones die off early. So, okay, so your harmonics die off. My other guitars don't do this. Neck is straight and narrow. So he's talking about the action and how it's set up. I don't think that's going to be an action thing. It could be, because sometimes, like I said, those low action, the frets choke off the string a little bit. What I would suggest trying is putting a boost pedal or finding an amp that has a lot of gain. Try to get the guitar to do it. Make sure you check the height of the pickups to make sure that they're optimized. In other words, as close as possible, but not too close. But try a boost pedal. Try some stuff to see if you just get it to do it. I'm assuming the original pickups are in it and you shouldn't have a problem, but that might be the problem. But it also might be those pickups are just too far away. That could be it as well. But your actions doesn't look too out of whack to me. So, I mean, it doesn't sound like you're too super low or anything. But I would try there. Try, like I said, try to see if you can get the guitar to do it using those other ideas, which is raising the pickups or adjusting pickup height, using a boost or some kind of other extra thing to push the amp to see if they can kind of get those harmonics out. And if you can, then that'll tell you that it's possible, and then try to work from there. Just an old guy says, Phil McKnight, he's talking about me, Phil McKnight, who really buys an $8,000, $9,000, or $10,000 guitars, i.e. Murphy Lab Relics? Okay, this is always a strange question to me because it involves one way of looking at something. And I'm not saying you're wrong, old guy. That's not where I'm going with this, okay? I just want you to see a different perspective and see it from this perspective, and hopefully it'll help. When somebody says, like, who in their right mind would buy a $10,000 guitar? Well, here's the problem. I want you to pretend for a moment, because I'm going to pretend for a moment, that I won the lottery and I have millions of dollars and I don't care about money now. I'm not going to change as a person. Okay. What I mean by that is I'm not going to be like Club Phil, and then I'll be like having really cool, like $25,000 glasses, and I'll have a Rolex, and I'll go to the club, and this is me at the club now, right? I'm still going to be the same dude. I'm still going to want to talk about guitars. I'm still going to do stuff every day like I do now. I'm still going to, just generally going to have the same personality. The problem is if I have a lot more money and I can afford whatever I want, well, what I want is guitars. Would I buy $10,000 guitars? I've said this before. I probably still would not buy $10,000 guitars. However, I would buy a $10,000 guitar before I bought a $10,000 jacuzzi. That's just the truth. I mean, it's absolutely true. Like if you gave me the option, jacuzzis are great, I'm sure. I don't have a jacuzzi. I'm sure some of you guys have a jacuzzi and love it. I don't want one. I only say that because I went to the home show a couple weeks ago with my wife. And they had jacuzzis, and I looked at them, and there's just no interest for me. Like I have no interest in that. So what I'm trying to say is some people just have money, and they like guitars, so they buy them. That's just how that works. And there's all kinds of reasons for that. But you got to understand too. There's another thing that's important. Again, perspective. Not only is there just people, like I've said this before, I have a friend, he's a surgeon, he's a really nice guy. He's not into anything other than guitars, so he buys nice guitars. He could buy Porsches. You know what I mean? He could. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. He could collect expensive cars. He doesn't, so he buys expensive guitars. That doesn't mean that they're better or anything, just means that's why he does that. But the reason I tell you that is, there not only is that logic, which is if you have the money, you can just do that. There's also another logic too, which is a lot of guitars. There's a kind of this weird tone out there with guitar players if you don't know. And I want to tell you this because I love this story because it actually happened and you can see it in real proof. I had a customer. He brought me a guitar and he had me work on the frets. That guitar was $10,000. That's why it ties into your story, because I love telling the story. And I don't think I've ever told it on the podcast, but I've told it to every friend. Let me tell you. He said, and I quote, "And if you do a video with it, I wouldn't mind." So I did a video. If you guys know, you'll have to figure out the video because I'm not going to tell you. But I did a video of his $10,000 guitar. If you read the comments in that video, overwhelmingly, I couldn't tell you the percentage, but just to say in the fair, easily in the column is how stupid that guitar was for that money and how dumb that person was for buying that guitar and how that guitar is not worth that. And those are the predominant comments for sure. Okay, I'm not saying I agree or disagree. I just want to tell you what happened with that guitar. Well, he sold that guitar for $12,000. It's now worth $25,000. So the irony is, while I read the comments, overwhelmingly, the community said what an idiot he was. What I know for a fact happened was he bought that guitar. He played it for a little over a year. He sold it, put $2,000 in his pocket. Didn't sound like an idiot to me. A little sad that he sold it before it doubled, right? My point of that story is sometimes there's reasons why guitars are expensive other than they're just good. They're investments. I really believe this. I believe vintage guitar collectors don't really talk about this, but the reality is this. A lot of vintage guitars are not that they're that great. They're just not. I understand when they make a 65, there's a 65 Mustang, and I've said this before. I don't know anything about cars, but I understand concepts of this. There's a 65 Mustang. They don't make 65 Mustangs anymore. Ford isn't going to make a 65 Mustang. They're not going to set up production and replicate it and get the steel like they did before, and definitely not going to make a car without an airbag. Right? So they're not going to make a 65 Mustang. So when I see friends talk about vintage cars, and of course, to me, vintage cars like a 65 Mustang, when I talk about the crazy price of that car, I think, yeah, of course, because if you want one, I'm sure there's kits maybe, I don't know. But anyways, my point is, if you want one, you have to pay what it's worth. I still laugh to this day. If you go to Fender and Gibson's factory, they make guitars exactly like they did in the 50s and 60s. Exactly. You could argue the 1% differences, which is what you're going to have to do at that point. What's different about how, to me, when I see And again, I'm not justifying anything. I'm kind of just explaining some thoughts. When I see a $7,000 Gibson R9, right? I think, yeah, but that's a replica of a $450,000 guitar. I can't get my brain around the $450,000. So that's the reality of this. So like I said, so I'm telling you that, I forget the sign on. I'm sorry. What was the sign on? Sign on was just an old guy. The reason I'm telling you that is because there's other things factored in that not everyone's talking about. You know, when you see Joe Bonamassa, I love saying this about Joe Bonamassa. Joe Bonamassa buys a 62 Strat. And my joke is, do you know what's worth more than a 62 Strat? A 62 Strat owned by Joe Bonamassa. So when he buys those vintage guitars, immediately just him owning them inflates the value of the one he just bought. And if he plays it on stage and he writes a little certificate saying it was played on this date at this show, then it's going to be worth even more. So you could argue that he could say, oh, they don't make them like this anymore. And he has, you know, he has them for the tones. I'm not saying he doesn't. I'm just saying they're really investments. You know what I mean? A lot of that stuff is just investments. So $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 guitars are investments. Downfall, though, is sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're just silly purchases. But arguably, like I said, and this is actually true too. When I was at the home show with my wife and there was jacuzzis, I said, I made a passing comment to her. I go, what are they, like $5,000? And then I laughed. I caught myself and I go, I don't even know if that's relevant anymore. I don't know what a jacuzzi is worth. It could be $20,000 now. Who the hell knows? I said, what's funny is if you went to a home show and bought a $5,000 jacuzzi and came home, none of your friends would even say anything weird. But if you went to a store and bought a $5,000 guitar, they'd be like, $5,000 guitar? That's crazy. But in a year, I'd like to know how much that jacuzzi versus that guitar is worth. So to me, it's not a crazy thing to buy those guitars. I'm just not going to do it. Like I said, I have a Gibson R9. I didn't pay anything close to what they're worth. And definitely the way I kind of set it all up, you know, with my trades and stuff. But I did it because I wanted one, and I actually have something that you guys will see later as a project I'm working on, and that's the main reason. And I wanted to see, like I said, my channel is predicated on this idea of trying things, learning things, not so much just reading about it and coming up with a decision. I want to, like I said, I've done everything from cut pickups in half on my videos, you know what I mean? I've done all kinds of stuff because I want to share the information, the physical information. What happened when I tried this? What happened when you did this? What did you learn from that? Because I find that's way better than just when I gave you guys like a theory. Scott Grove's funny. Scott says, you got to pay big money for that tonewood. Scott's not kidding. Look, that's part of that too. Again, there's, like I said, it's a crazy thing that they do. Scott's actually, in a perfect example, Scott's probably, to me, the biggest example of somebody who knows how to buy guitars right all the time. Obviously, if you've ever watched his channels, you know that he likes to buy the guitars, and then when they're worth a lot, I have the same. That's one thing we have in common. Okay. And I'm not trying to, I don't want to say that specifically, but just generally speaking, if I buy a guitar, let's say for $1,500, if I buy a guitar for $1,500 and then one day it's worth $4,000, I'm selling it. I could give two craps. I've said that before. If a guitar doubles in value, I'd rather have the money. I'd rather double my money sometimes and buy something else and then let that flip and do its thing. Because like I said, most of the guitars I love, I didn't pay a ton of money for. So again, there is a lot of that. And that's why it's important, I think, to have conversations about that, because I think some players just see things, like I said, through one vision, which is this magic tone unicorn theory, that the things that are expensive just sound that much better. And it's not that if they don't sound better, they do. You just can't ignore the fact that there's other factors out there. The reality is, and I've said this before, Fender and Gibson, who are the biggest, who are smart, have figured out that custom shop guitars, making limited runs of things and making them a little bit more specialized and tweaked, makes guitars that generally go up in value, and that guarantees it. They create a false demand, and it seems to work. I've seen it work. Not always. Last week, I picked up a Fender custom shop for less than you can buy an American Standard for. Why? because I bought it for less than what you can buy American Standard for. So I bought a Fender Custom Shop. There's deals out there too. And that brings up, if you guys didn't see it in the news this week, that was another thing that the Gibson Murphy Labs Les Pauls, they're having issues, right? Some of the finish is flaking off. The finish is having a bad reaction to something, and so I'm just giving you the information I understand, which is Gibson's aware of this now, and Gibson is honoring any issues. So if you have a Murphy Labs, a $7,000 Murphy Lab that the finish is just flaking off on or doing weird stuff, apparently just contact them and they will take care of it. I'm not shocked. What was more curious, and I couldn't find any answers to, is that I was curious to see how much of that had to do with COVID. And the reason I say that is because I have told you guys this before. I've talked to people that work at factories, and they have told me that since going back from, after COVID, and all the new policies and stuff, like hand sanitizers have had interesting reactions to some of the finishes. There's been all kinds of stuff. See, and then I'm just going to hit on this. So Barry Thought says, Murphy Lab is for fools. Sorry. But this is the same comment. I'm not picking on you, buddy. I'm just kind of hitting your comment a little bit. You could be right, but you also could be wrong. And it's important to understand that. I wish if I could predict it all, I'd be rich. I obviously can't. But because I've been wrong so many times, I am more open to paying attention now and reserving. And one reason why I say that is, look, I think I've told you this. I have a floral gem. I bought it from my buddy. I did a trade. I'm into it for $1,900. I've told this story many times. He wanted my Les Paul Classic. I traded him straight across. That guitar is worth $6,000 easy now. Easy. It's a mint condition floral gem. I've been his gem. In perfect condition, not a single solitary flaw on it. It's a case-ridden guitar. So it's been in a case since 1999. Even I, if you notice, bring it out very rarely. And I have the original poster, all the stuff that goes with it. And I've seen people asking $8 for them when they're in mint condition. I don't think that's what it will go for. It would go for $6. When I pay $2, I want you to be clear. I'd love to tell you yeah, I bought it because I knew, man, it would triple. I literally I thought when I bought it, it was at the height. I was like, man, I think at the time when I bought it from him and we did the deal and I traded him, I think me and him believed it was worth $25 on the street. And, and that was a great way of trading, was a great way of, getting it into my hands for less than the $25 and him not feeling like he sold it too cheap on the market. And now look what it's worth. And like I told you before about selling guitars, I've thought about selling it, except for in this case, I have a deal, which is obviously to sell it, I'd have to offer it back to him because he's my friend. And so I'm sure he'd want it back for $2,000. So I'll just keep playing it because I still enjoy it. My point is that I would find that insane. If you would have told me just a couple years ago they would be worth $6,000, $7,000, $5,000, even $4,000. Take all those numbers in half, just $3,000. If you would have told me they would go up to $3,500, I would have told you that's crazy. So, like I said, we don't know. And these Murphy Labs, we don't know. But we do know that I've told you guys this before. The guitar that I've made the most money on, my personal guitar, not from my store and back in the day, is my Gibson Les Paul Custom Shop. I bought a Gibson Les Paul Custom Shop for under $2,000 and I sold it for over $6,000. So, I mean, it is out there. But so you know, and this is to go to the comment, the person who said that there are more and if they buy it, he could be right too, because just because that happened before doesn't mean it will happen again. Like I said, I'm not also downplaying the intelligence of the guitar companies to figure out, well, since that happened before, in other words, we made a guitar, we sold it, and then what's a perfect example? Look at what's the Nebula, right? The John Mayer Strat. Could you imagine if you bought a John Mayer Strat? You bought a John Mayer Strat for the retail. I mean, it's worth double that for the paint job. What's funny about that guitar is, to me, the John Mayer Nebula is to me, the poster child for this. It's a guitar that you can get. It's not out of production, right? It's not like perfect example behind me. I'm sitting here as a PV Wolfgang, USA Wolfgang. They don't make those anymore. They make the HP 42s, but not the PV Wolfgangs, not with the actual Wolfgang and the EVH logo. This is an out of production guitar. So it's done. So if you want one, you got to find an old one. the Silver Sky is still around, so you can buy a Silver Sky. That paint isn't special. In fact, you can go right now to Kiesel Guitars, and Kiesel Guitars will paint you any guitar in that nebula finish. I think they call it something else, but it's the same paint because everybody gets their paints from the same places. So it's not a rare paint that you can't get. It's not a guitar they don't make, but they decided to put those together and then make a limited run of them, and now they're worth 2 and 3 times what they were new. That's a perfect example of they artificially created demand. They did it. They could just make more tomorrow. You could say, well, they said they wouldn't. Okay, they said they wouldn't. Again, we were talking about laws earlier. I don't know what the law on that. I don't know what the legality on that is. I don't know if there's a lawsuit waiting to happen. And then Chris is talking about also, he says, I thought the Nebula and the Lunar Mist were limited runs. Right, the Lunar Mist was the second one. Because again, they were capitalizing on that. I think they doubled the production on the Lunar Mist, right? And said, we'll make twice as many this time. But same logic. So again, it gets a little tricky out there, what's going to go up in value or not. But the important part of this whole conversation and my little tirade here is to remind you guys that there are multiple reasons for buying guitars out there. Not just one. I mean, sure, some of it is for tone, right? And if you're looking for a guitar just because how it plays and how it sounds, well, then price is not irrelevant. You can buy a great sounding guitar that plays great for $200 all day long. But if you're looking for something unique, something that's interesting, something that your neighbor doesn't have, if that's what kind of floats your boat, you can do that as well, right? You can find guitars. If you want to show everybody that you make more than them, there's that. There's all kinds of reasons. But there's also, like I said, there are players out there that know how to buy guitars right. And if you educate yourself and know how to do it, you buy something at the right time, at the right price, you make money on it. And like I said, it's not a bad thing to play a guitar for a couple years, enjoy it, and then double your money. It's not the most horrible feeling ever. I have friends that do that with cars, so you know. I have friends I know it's done in every other things besides guitars. I know some of you guys are into other things, so I'm sure that it's done in other things too. I have friends that literally, they buy cars for cash whenever they find a great deal. They buy it and they drive it. They put like 10,000 miles on it, and then they flip it for more than what they paid for it, and they do it again and again, and they never have a car payment, and they always put money in their pocket. So excuse me, I'm talking for too long. It's a downfall of having a show where I'm talking and then I'm saying what you guys are saying in the comments, so it's like I'm always talking. Sabar says, it's not illegal to be a jerk. That is absolutely true. Probably the best saying I've heard today. And then Emil says, Phil, has anyone ever brought you a guitar for maintenance that you didn't think was worth fixing? Yeah, it happens all the time. Sometimes there's other mitigating factors, and I just do it. I try not to. You know what I mean? It's like, give me an example. Sometimes, somebody comes in and they're like, hey, my little kid's guitar doesn't work, and I look at the guitar and it's worth $100, and it's going to cost them $170 in labor, and I just cut the labor in half and just do it. Notice it in my tone. I'm always like, look, I'm proud of myself for making those decisions sometimes, but I'm also mad at myself. That's just how it works. Again, a lot of you guys have a lot of jobs. You understand this. We call it sweethearting here in my circles. I have a friend who has an air conditioning company. He basically calls it the same thing. Sometimes he's like, he goes to a house. It's a 90-year-old woman. Her air conditioning not working. She has $300 and it's an $800 job. And sometimes he's just like, okay, today it's a $300 job. Sometimes you just, you try to, you got to make money, but also as a repair person, you try to find the balance between that. But sometimes even I'm like, yeah, that's not worth doing. It depends. But yeah, it happens all the time. So you know that it's just not worth it. And it's always the same thing. It's not worth, the saying is putting good money after bad. It's not worth shoving a ton of money into something that's not going to have any value, and it may not even be properly fixed. So okay. All right. All right, let me hit some other questions. Let me get to this. I'm getting there. How are we doing? We're always running long. That's what we do here. We run long. Okay. Litface got a crazy question. Litface question is, tell us about strat string spacing. Okay, I already know where he's going to go with this, but what I didn't understand was he's saying getting a brass custom bridge from Twang Mart. I've never heard of this, so I want you guys to take notice of that. Google if you want Twang Mart. I'm really interested to see what it is that he's finding, and that's interesting. So basically, the core of his question is he's talking about what string spacing should he go with. I want to not talk about the string spacing. Lidve. What I want to talk about is theorizing a guitar and where I found that has never worked for me. So I'm not telling you not to do it. You might be smarter than me. In fact, it's probably that's likely. So, because that's not how my brain works. I don't work off that. I work, like I said, off of like, oh, I learned from that. I won't do that again. I kind of have to do stuff to learn. You know what I mean? It's just how my personality and my brain works. So that means I'm consistently failing at things all the time, which then gives me hindsight. Not the best way to go through life, in my experience, but it's how I work. My point is, I've tried to put on paper a theory of how a guitar will feel and play for me, and it never works. So when you're talking about your the 7/32 or your 2 1/16, how do you decide on that? I don't have a set neck profile. I don't have a set string spacing on the guitars behind me. I used to think that way for me. I used to be like, oh, I like this. In other words, let's say I like, I'll use millimeters because I like millimeters. I'll use 21 millimeters thick at the first fret and 23 millimeters at the 12th fret. That's how thick I like the neck. And I like the neck to be a C carve, and I like this, and I like that. And then what happens is I pick up a guitar one day and I go, oh, wow, that's none of these things. And I love it. For instance, this comes up a lot when we talk about Squiers versus Fenders, like American Fenders, the necks being narrower, string spacing, narrower at the nut on the Squiers. I picked up Squiers and I hated it. I picked up those Squiers and I like it. As you guys know, I used to have a Bullet. I got rid of it. I now have the Affinity. The Affinity plays great. And again, it's just different. So although not a great answer for you to say, hey, this is the way you should go, what I'm telling you is, I don't trust the idea of just saying, go with this. I think you'll be happier. I think you have to try necks and then emulate those necks. You know what I mean? And that's the only way I've learned to do it too. But even then, almost all of my projected ideas have failed. In other words, like I said, if I said, okay, I've done a bunch of warm-up builds for myself years ago, and almost all of them, the first attempt was the worst. It was like, oh, I thought I had it down, and there's one thing on the guitar I didn't love because, like I said, on paper it sounded great, but in practical playing it didn't. It's weird. The guitars are, just my opinion, guitars are a little magical. And that's from someone who works on them all the time. There's a lot of stuff that can be quantified. Scott was on here. I don't know if he's still here, but Scott was on earlier. And Scott obviously doesn't believe in tonewood. And I think, obviously, he's right to think that way for himself. And there's players that explain to me why tonewood works. What I've learned is this. I try not to focus on that, like I've told you before. I like to focus on the fact that everything kind of matters, and let's just see what matters the most. But for me, every time there's this absolute, then there's something that says that's not true. So what I mean by that is every time I try to tell you, like, yes, if you follow these rules, give me alder body, maple neck, rosewood fretboard, this string spacing, this action, this radius, these frets, this bridge, it's perfect. That never happens. So I don't know if I should just say that there's some magic going on there, or if it's just scientific variables. It's all possible, but the reality is that I can't tell you, and that's from the fact that I think a lot of players have experienced this. I find a guitar I love, but it's not in the color I want, so I just find exactly the same guitar in the color I want, and yet I don't love that guitar. So there you go. Look how many comments. There's no such thing as tonewood. Do you guys really get all spastic about that stuff? I still laugh about that. Is that a thing? I always wonder, the reason I say that is because I really believe, like I said, everything matters to some degree, even if that degree is something that you can't maybe hear. Something's got to have an effect, but I don't know if I actually care. So that's why I tell you guys that. For instance, if you believe in tonewood, let's start there. If you were to tell me, Phil, mahogany is warmer than alder, I would say, yeah, but I can change the pickups. I can change things and make that not be as prominent. And if you told me that alder and mahogany have no tonal difference, well, then I'd still give you the same answer. I can make pickups that sound different. So I just always wonder, just because I don't understand. I understand having a belief on the thing. I just don't understand getting upset. So Eric the Red says, I spaz about everything. That's great. You know what? That's a good point too. That's why, like I said, having these weekly conversations with you guys, that's not wrong. Now that you put it that way, yeah, I have friends that are a little high-strung, intense. I'm not as intense. I get intense, but very rarely. Okay. Daryl says, is there a such thing as tone wire? I'm playing the game now with you guys because I like it. That is definitely a belief. People believe that stainless steel fret, I assume you're saying tone wire. I don't think you mean wire like cables, but that's obviously a thing too. Different fret wire have different sounds. I could see that. I don't know. Like I said, there's just look, here's the thing I tell you. Back to Litvey's question. I don't find it so easy to quantify. You know what I mean? I can't just be like, oh, I can make this exact sound way I like it. If I believe that, I would only have one guitar. If I believe that I can make every sound I want out of one thing, I would just have one thing. And I don't believe that because I physically, when I play, I can't hear it. Same with the amp. I have one amp. Trust me, having multiple guitars is nice, but it's also, like I said, it's nice to have one guitar too. If it did it all. Greg says, cheers from the land of PRS and the beautiful Chesapeake Bay. Yeah, it's beautiful and cold. I've ran at the Chesapeake Bay. Any plans to review acoustics on the horizon? I'll duck out now to avoid the shrapnel. I do have a company that reached out about acoustics. The funny thing about acoustics, I say the same thing about acoustics I'll say about basses. Very few companies reach out for me to do anything on the channel. I love acoustics. I love basses, but I don't collect them. I don't buy them up. I have a couple acoustics and I play them probably the most of the time. Like I said, in pecking order, I play more bass than probably guitar. I play more acoustic than I play electric. That's just what I actually play. The downfall is that I have 3 basses and I have 3 acoustics, and that's so I can't review those. I've already reviewed them all. They've been in my videos. But the reason I say that is, I find it funny every time a company reaches out for a bass or acoustic, they go, I know you don't do a whole lot of bass and acoustic on your channel. And I always respond with, well, that's because a lot of companies don't reach out. Funny part about that is that when I make videos about acoustics or basses, those views tend to be pretty good, right? Especially comparatively speaking. Bass and acoustic videos, I can do videos where channels that are dedicated to just acoustic or just bass, my views will be the same or if not more than those channels. So the reason I tell you that is that, so I've had a company reach out about acoustics. I'm talking to them. Hopefully something will happen. I'm not going to tell you guys any more of the companies that reach out to me. I found a couple times it actually hurt me. Here's why. I would mention this company reach out, talk to me. You guys got excited. This happened to me twice. Very strange thing to happen. Both times, you guys meant well. You guys actually reached out to him and said, oh, I like this channel and I saw you're talking to him and I bought one. And then they don't have any reason to work with the channel because they're like, oh, great. We sold some guitars. He mentioned us. And then so I didn't get they just didn't send anything. So my point is that I'm not going to talk about it. But yes, and if they don't send anything, then I'll just figure out something out like I always do. Like I said, if companies don't send out some products to do some extra reviews and stuff, then like I said, we dip into the funds and we just order some more like we do. I just try to balance it. Again, I want to make content. That's basically what I want to do. That's what I'm doing now. We're talking about guitars. I want to talk about guitars. Nick says, I have a Tele with no fret wear. Okay, so no wear in the frets, except at the 8th fret, a dent, maybe a hairline crack. Probably more so a dent, hairline cracks. I wouldn't say, I've never seen a fret crack. You could have a cut into it, usually made by the string, in the B and G string area, which would be the strings that would do that, especially the B string. It frets out there. What should I do? You have 2 solutions that I would suggest to you. One, you could crown and level all your frets. In other words, you have to level that fret and then crown it, and then you'll have to crown and level all the frets to that because you're taking some material off. That would depend on how deep it is. So if I was looking at it, if it wasn't very deep and I thought I could get it out, file it out and just get it smooth and then buff it and then literally crown all the other frets and level them, I would just go with that as long as I wasn't taking too much material. If I thought it was too deep and I couldn't do that, I would pull that one fret and refret it. Now, you said Tele, you didn't say Fender Tele, you didn't say Made in Mexico, USA, Squire, you didn't say what it is. But unless it's some kind of, again, mystical unicorn, since that's going to be the term today, I have the fret wire, so I would just pull the fret wire that fits, and then any tech worth their weight in salt. Is that a thing? I don't know what the hell sometimes I'm even saying. Any tech worth their weight in salt that I just made that saying up on, has calipers and can check fret thickness and figure out what fret wire it is. It's not that hard. And then put a new fret in there. And that's all you do. You just do that. In fact, it's different regions, different, it's the problem is I'm talking to everybody around the world, or around the country, different prices, different regions. In my arena, in my world, usually I will remove and refret 3 to 4 frets, and that's not called a refret. So, like, I wouldn't charge the whole refret job if I was doing 3 or 4 frets. Usually you do 2 or 3. It's very common if you can get away with it. So, and like I said, there's more variables. One of the variables is your other frets aren't worn out, because obviously if they're all worn out at this point, you just might as well replace them all. But or replace the neck, depending on whatever the most cost effective for you and what you want to decide. But in your case, I would either file it and polish it out, and then take care of the other frets, or I'd refret that one fret, which is something you can totally do. Happens all the time. All the time. Happened to me. I'm trying to remember what guitar I did. I had a guitar, it was about 5 months ago, got smacked, and probably was the B string, could have been the high E string, cut right into a fret. I had to pull the fret and just refret it right then. Derek says, he has a Les Paul. What? Oh, okay. I was like reading, he has a Les Paul with a humbucker single. I was like, wow. No, he has a Les Paul, a humbucker single Strat, a PRS Custom 22, and an Ibanez RG. What should my next guitar be? An acoustic. Is that the answer you were looking for? Probably not. But it should be. Acoustic. If you don't have an acoustic, get an acoustic. If you have an acoustic and you're talking about another electric guitar, get a semi-hollow guitar. Take you out of your that's usually the idea, right? Musicians are trying to do this thing where it's like, I got a Tele, I got a Les Paul, you know what I mean? I got a hollow body, you want a bunch of different guitars because, they might make you play differently, feel differently, try different things, but more importantly, kind of, figure out where you land. But I would definitely look at a semi-hollow guitar. They're fun to play. And there's tons of them. Semi-hollow, hollow body guitars, either one of them, any brand. They're all fun. Matthew says, hey, Phil, first ever super chat. Thank you, buddy. Says, just want to say thanks for all you've done to continue and what you do. COVID has meant a lot more work for me. I understand that. I look forward to these a couple hours of sanity each week. I appreciate that. I actually also am in your boat, Matthew. Before COVID, when I do the live shows, sometimes I was excited about them. Sometimes I'd be like, oh, it's Friday. What am I going to do? What are we going to talk about? It's very stressful. During COVID, it's been just amazing. So, just been something I can Friday is the day I talk to my guitar nerd friends. Randy Crook says, hey, Phil, just ordered a Freeman BE Mini 30 watts. I didn't know the Mini was 30 watts, but it is. Do you have any thoughts or experience with this? I have not tried one yet. My understanding is it's basically based on the pedal. It's all solid state, which is good. Why did I make that face? Like almost like I was like, oh, solid state. I don't mean it that way, buddy. What I will tell you is I've heard good things. I have not heard great things. I've heard that they're good. That's what I've heard. I don't think it's a bad thing to get. I'm curious to see. They moved. I've talked about this before. Now since the fire, they've moved to a new facility. I don't know if they're making that amp right now. Those amps, I think the chassis are made in overseas, and then they get there and then they build the wood box and everything and load it in here in the US. I think that's how they were kind of doing it. And again, they haven't told me that. I'm just kind of, that's how I guessed it kind of is coming to happen. And so I would imagine they're probably not putting a whole lot of focus on making those right now. Because, they got other stuff to worry about. So it might be cool, something cool to check out. It's really cool. My whole thing is, I want one. It's kind of cool. It's a little. It kind of reminds me of. It reminds me of those mini Marshall stacks, and I think that's the main reason why I decided not to buy one for me. I've owned like 3 or 4 of those Marshall mini stacks, and I never seem to stick with them, and that's why I didn't do it. But I've heard, like I said, great things. If I ever get my hands on one, I would definitely do a video of it. Gear Sounds says, just made a video where I combined a fuzz with a synth. Okay. I used my HP2. Okay. Fuzz. Oh, it's HP2. Okay. Fuzz by Land Devices. He's saying it's a pure collating. Pure collating? I think that's what it is. Pure collating. Fuzz. What is it? Technically. I have no idea. I have no idea. Maybe I'll have to watch a video and then see what it is. Fuzz pedals are not really my forte. I have a few fuzzes. I like them. I went through a fuzz thing about 10 years ago-ish. Maybe it was like 8 years ago, where I never used them before. And then I was determined to figure out what they were and why I need one in my life. And for me, I found a few and I like them. And I haven't tried one since. I don't think I've actually bought a fuzz or even had a company send a fuzz pedal in 4 years. Maybe 3, probably 4. So, and for anyone asking, like, what is the fuzz you use? I have like 5 or 6 fuzz pedals, but the ones I actually use, if I use a fuzz pedal, I use, I have others, but I'm just telling you the ones I actually use. I have the Fuzz Factory by Zfx. Love that. That's probably the one I use probably the most or second most. I have the Fuzzopotamus by Taurus Pedals. And I have the, I don't know what it's called. It's an MXR fuzz pedal. It's purple. The pedal's purple. I don't see how into fuzz I am. I like fuzz, but I don't use it very often. And if I do, like I said, I've been lazy and just going to Fuzz Factory. I even have a fuzz pedal from Lawrence, and it's really good. But Lawrence Petros. But again, the Fuzz Factory is just kind of like easy. It's just right there. I just use it. What do we have? We have Matt. Matt Fields wants to know, hey, Phil, what's your favorite early Telecaster broadcaster pickup set? Just got the AVRI, 52 Telecasters set. I like it and the tone, and I want more of it. I use, in my Telecaster set, Telecaster that I currently play the most over. Oh, it's right here. It's never like that. This one, I have the Lindy Fralin blue set. I really like it. So I use that. In the red telly I have, that's stock. And then I have a bunch of telly pickups. I mean, I probably have 50 different telly pickups. I like all kinds of things about them. I have lace ones. I have Fender Custom Shop ones. I have just crazy ones. But I like the Lindy Fralin blue set. I like to use it a lot. Joe says, hey, Phil, recently purchased a 65 Princeton Tweed Limited, okay, with the 12-inch Celestion ceramic speaker, okay. Love the amp. What's your favorite distortion pedal to pair with your Princeton? My favorite distortion pedal to pair with my Princeton, it's not a distortion, it's an overdrive pedal. So I'll give you one of each just in case, okay, because some players do say that they're different. I mean, they are, but you know what I mean? Some consider them the same, some consider them different. I use the 68 LPD. In my Princeton, that pedal, for some reason, just feels at home. So that's the pedal I've been using since the day I got it in the Princeton. If I don't use that, I'll use my Zen drive. Again, just light overdrives, kind of like the 68. Or I'll use the OD11, which is Love Pedal. They don't make it anymore. Which is like I think their copy of a Zen drive. Lots of Zen drive copies, kind of things. But the 68's its own thing, but it's like a low overdrive pedal. So I use that. For distortion in that amp, because the Princetons get a little fizzy, I have the 10-inch speaker Princeton, so the 10-inch speaker gets really fizzy really fast. So like the 5150, all the high gain pedals, just no moss for me. They just too fizzy. I'll probably, if I'm trying to use something like that, I'll probably use like my Pedal Pal Night Train, which is, again, a Marshall kind of gain pedal. Those are ones I like for that. Dan says, I have a Gibson DC, okay, with P90s. Put a SD Seymour Duncan. Okay, so I understand where this goes. Double cut. He's got a Gibson double cut with P90s, but he put a Seymour Duncan mini humbucker in the bridge, and I don't love it. I've had that experience with the mini humbuckers. Just looking for something smoother, warmer tone. What should you suggest? Don't stick with the P90s, but find a P90 that's warmer, maybe like a P90 humbucker, like what DiMarzio makes, or I think, does Lindy Fralin make a noiseless P90? I'm pretty sure. But that's what I would go with. Go with a P90 that's kind of noiseless. They'll tend to be warmer because there's two coilless. To be noiseless is technically to be a humbucker. So whether they stacking the coils on top of each other or side by side, you're going to get the same effect. It's just gonna have a lot more whines, which means it's going to have more resistance, which means more resistance means less highs. It's kind of how it's going to go, especially on the P90s. P90s are this weird thing. There is so much confusion about them. Remember, P90s as a whole typically have more punch and more output than humbuckers. They just also have more high-end frequency response, like a single coil. So to me, if you want a humbucker that's got more high-end definition, more kind of high-end sparkle is how I like to call it, go P90, right? That'll definitely get you where you want to go. If you have a P90 and you find it's too bright and it's not warm enough, go with a noiseless P90. That would definitely dull it down really fast, just by the definition of, like I said, putting another coil in there, whether it's side by side or stacked. And then, but the mini humbuckers have this weird thing that they do that I love, but also could be a just hellacious pain in the ass, which is they get really mid-rangey, and mid-range is great because it makes notes fatter, really kind of punches out. It's great, but it also creates this kind of nasal sound that sometimes it depends on the guitar, the amp you're using, all the other effects you're using, everything you're using. You remember your musical instrument is everything. It's the amp, the speakers, the cables, the pedals, the guitar, the pickups. I mean, it's everything. That's, acoustic guitar is just an acoustic. You pick it up, that's your instrument. But an electric guitar, by definition, is not just an instrument by itself. Electric guitar is an instrument with all the other things combined to make the instrument. And those things all interact. And sometimes things that are mid-rangey are great, and sometimes things just pick up this real nasal quality. Something I've really come to learn with doing these pickup videos over the years, been changing out all the pickups and doing stuff, is that sometimes a pickup that has this great tone that I like, just in the rig that I'm demoing, and I have to change out things in the rig because, again, it gets too nasally. So, all right, next we have D. Sharon, who says, care on. Okay. Any luck on getting in line for tech work? If not, what luthiers would you suggest in the Phoenix area? I like Tim at Atomic Guitars. That's who I recommend a lot because I like Tim. Tim's been on the channel before. Atomic's probably really busy too. Right now, everybody's really busy. My big problem is I told you, I was dumb enough to start making pickups, and that sucks up. I mean, you gotta understand, my days break up into like these bricks of sections throughout the day where I'm like, okay, I gotta make content, and there's so much time for editing, so much time for filming. And then I have all this other work I have to do with where I'm working with companies. That's a lot of meeting time. Then I have repairs. Then I have pickups. You know what I mean? So I break up my time. So I've been trying to balance it. The problem is pickups did exactly what I thought they would do. I've been saying this for years. A lot of you guys said, hey, you should make pickups. And I was like, all right, well, I was already kind of doing that, but only specifically through a customer if they asked. So now making some, it literally chunks out. It can chunk out 3 to 4 hours a day minimum out of my day. Which collectively, if you look at the week, that takes up 2 to 3 days of your week. That's half your week. And I've said this before, I've had a few of you very kindly say, "Oh, you should make some videos." Yes, but I can't keep up with what I'm doing now. So how am I going to do? How am I going to push more? There is a plan though when that will happen and how that's going to happen, and then that will free up more repair time. But that is what's really killing me. So with repair time. So that's but I like Tim and Atomic. I like Tim. So I would reach out to Tim anytime. Matthew says Guitar Center used listings suck. That was eloquently put and very accurate. They try to sell $1,000 guitar with 1 to 2 potato can photos and a few or no details about the guitar description. Yes, this is true. Absolutely. Look, I don't think anyone who's ever checked out the Guitar Center used section online is disagreeing with you. My problem is not only sometimes the photo is really bad. Sometimes you ever see that thing where you can't expand them any bigger? They're just like tiny, and you can't see for crap. That happens, of course. They kind of quickly do it. It's not their focus. Look, we understand. Guitar Center as a whole is trying to still rely on their stores, and then I think in their mind they post pictures of the used gear thinking that we'll look online, see it, and then go to the store. Maybe that happens. I mean, it's true. We all do look. If I'm in a different city, I've said this before. If I'm in a different city, I'll pull up whatever Guitar Center's around just because I can look at those photos. And I think the reason is, and again, I don't work at Guitar Center, so I don't know, but I think the reason they do that is also they sell that stuff fast, man. Let's be clear. Their used stuff there's a reason why no matter how crazy Guitar Center is, and we've talked about all the things that they do wrong, there's a couple things they do right. They do price aggressive. I mean, you can find used gear at Guitar Center many times. And I'm not exaggerating by any means. To say I have a friend would be just not fair because it's not one friend. I have friends. They literally are the equivalent of when you see people like, you ever see this crap on the internet? I see it all the time. Where they're like, I go to Walmart and I buy stuff at Walmart and throw it on Amazon and I make millions of dollars. I don't know if that's true, but I see it all the time. I have friends that literally go to Guitar Center, buy up their used gear, and then put it on Reverb and make money. That's literally what they do. They just find deals. They go online. I see it all the time. You can go on Guitar Center, see a guitar for sale. Somebody is just recently, in the last week or two, pointed out many times that a lot of times it's also because they're putting the wrong specs, the wrong guitar, wrong listing. I just saw it the other night. Like I said, when I was trying to exhaust out my gift cards, they had a BC Rich Mockingbird listed as a Warlock. I mean, of course, it's silly things like that. So, yes, to answer your question, they're crappy, but the benefit is that it's also, I think that's also what doesn't allow them to charge more for the stuff. Because I'm sure there's exceptions. I'm sure somebody, because it's the internet, is going to put on a comment down below. Oh, Phil, I saw a guitar that was selling everywhere for $300 and they were trying to get $600. That's the same thing that happens that does the other thing too. They don't have, and I've experienced it when trading into them. I've had them, for everyone who's told me, like I have patrons that have told me that they took his stuff at Guitar Center and Guitar Center offered them like almost nothing for it. But if you're savvy with Guitar Center, you can also figure out how they're going to do that accidentally the backwards way. Like, for instance, and that's how I got the gift cards in the first place. I literally had some stuff that no one wanted, but when you looked online, everybody was asking good prices. It just wasn't selling. I took it down to GC and they gave me, half of what it was worth, but they went off these prices that no one was paying. Because that's, it's a really kind of cookie cutter way of taking in there's no instinct anymore. And again, so you don't think I'm bashing Guitar Center employees. My problem is when I do meet employees at Guitar Center, because there's tons of them that are just smart. They know their stuff. They're good people. They don't get promoted. That's not who I see get promoted sometimes. That's not who I see get rewarded. You know what I mean? They usually get frustrated. Like, right, and they have a high turnover rate, and all those things kind of factor in. So back to this thing, sometimes, like I said, it's plug and play. So there's the good and bad of it is what I'm trying to say. The good is you can get some smoking deals, and the bad is so there you go. All right. Okay. Oh, and Matthew, back to your comment. Yeah, and there's no description. There's no description. That does drive me a little crazy sometimes. And calling the store is very, very difficult for everyone. I mean, like I said, I might be a little too sensitive to this because, like I said, I've been the person that had to take calls all day over the phone with customers like, "What do you have in your store?" I'm like, "Guitars." You know what I mean? So I mean, I've been on both sides of it. So that being said, it's I hate calling the store because not only are they kind of like, always in a hurry and they really can't talk. I also understand why they're in a hurry and they can't talk. So I kind of, so I don't know. Grumpy My Guitar says, for the tone jar, and why not? Unless you want it for coffee fun. Coffee is necessary to human existence. Yes, thank you for the coffee fund. I pretty much guaranteed I won't be going to any more coffee shops ever again. With the new coffee maker, I'm here. And I'm going to make coffee here forever. Harrison says, Phil, my American Pro 2 Strat just came in today. I can't push in or pop. Oh, I can't push in the pop-in trim bar, even with a good amount of pressure. Is there something blocking it? Is it still pushing? Is it? I'm just asking you. I haven't actually seen an American Professional 2 Strat, our guitar yet. Isn't that funny? Like, I haven't seen one. I've seen the Ultras. Look, and I only seen worked on. Like, I've worked on the Ultra. I've worked on the. What's the new Ultra with the black headstock? I did one of those a couple weeks ago. I've done a bunch of the right before the Ultras, whatever that was. I've worked on that stuff. I have not physically interacted with a Professional 2 yet at all. And it's funny. I would like to check out the one in that beautiful aqua color. I don't know what color they call it, but it's beautiful. So I haven't done it. So it should be a push-in trim arm. Should be straightforward, but I don't know. They might have switched back to a threaded trim arm. You would definitely want to take a flashlight and look in that hole to make sure. They also could have stuck the wrong bridge in there. I've seen crazier things in the last year. You know what I mean? You got to understand, these factories have been, pushed to the limits when it comes to all the things going on. So let's not assume that it's the correct bar and the correct bridge. Let's go ahead and make sure. So one of the things you can do is, like I said, take the flashlight on your phone or a flashlight, look inside the hole and look for threading, and that would do it as well. They also could have gave you the wrong trim arm. There's all kinds of scenarios in this. Again, like we talked about earlier, you didn't say where you got it, so maybe they didn't give you the right stuff. That's possible too. That, as actually I've seen before, where you go into a store, I'm assuming you probably bought it online, but if you go into a store where they gave you the case, the Fender case, but they gave you the wrong case, and because they just looked in it and it looked right, and maybe that has a different trim arm for a different type of Strat from Fender. So I would check those things for sure. But yes, you're right not to want to force it because it's not something that I can't. So the good news is, I'm confirming with you that it's not something like, oh yeah, just push on it and it'll go. Like, no, it should not have that problem. The other thing too you might want to look at is if it is the push-in tremolo, like I think it's supposed to be, because that's what the American Pro series is that there is on the back of the tremolo, on the back underneath the plate where the block is, there should be a little Allen wrench, Allen screw for your Allen wrench, and somebody might have tightened that too tight, and in there what that does is that compresses. I think in there is probably a nylon ring, and that compresses that ring, and if that's already compressed, then the tremolo arm won't fit in there. So there you go. So check that is what I'm saying. Check that also as well. And if you don't know how to do that, what I would suggest to you is go ahead and, I mean, it's tough. I can tell you what I would do. I have like all kinds of tremolo arms that are all different thicknesses, so I can stick something in there and kind of tilt that bridge forward. You need to tilt the bridge forward. So find a safe way to do that, to look underneath the plate in the back. It'll be in the back or on the side of the tremolo block, and there'll be an Allen screw for you to adjust. Hans Victor says, hey Phil, do you think the Seymour Duncan Cyclones Filtertron-ish are worth 3 times the price of the Gretsch Filtertrons? I have not tried them, so I don't know. If I was going to buy a Filtertron style pickup, I would go with TV Jones. Love their stuff. Filtertrons, though, are another kind of pickup, and I've said this before when it comes to P90s as well. P90s and Filtertrons, by the way that they're created, I have found great success with buying inexpensive ones. So whether you go to Guitar Fetish or things like that, or those type of places, they tend to have inexpensive ones that still are pretty good. So that's something I would check out. But no, I wouldn't pay, what'd you say, 3 times? Is that what you said? Yeah, 3 times the price. I haven't tried them, so I can't obviously tell you that's a good decision or not. But if I was going to pay that kind of price, I'd get TV Jones. That brand is, they make great Filtertron style pickups. Meester says, did you say something you're going to do an Evertune review? Yes. It says, or am I wishful thinking? Love to hear your take. Hopefully you had a great birthday. Yes, I'll eventually be doing that. That's coming too. You know how it goes. It's just, I gotta, film, edit, put together, put it out, film, edit, put together, put it out, and then hope that the other things don't factor in. Yep. Eventually we get to everything. So that's my way of saying I don't have it. It's not like I can say it's coming out like Tuesday. It's not that fast. Not that coming that fast. Thunder Falcon did a super chat for no reason. I thank you for that, buddy. Tony said, guitars are like children. All right. I want to hear this one. They're going to go to college and cost you a ton of money. No, they all have their own character. Yeah, that would be true. I have an Indonesian Squire that plays and sounds as good as my Made in America Strat. I've seen that a million times as well, and vice versa. Yep. I don't know how or why. It just does. I refer to them as Weds or Thursday guitars. Wednesday or Thursday guitars. Yeah, of course. Like, that's real popular in the, back in the day in car industry. Like, I got a car made on a Monday. Yeah. Well, that's really the core of it, right? I mean, the reality is the world changed on us, and we're adapting to it, and we're working with it, which is, it used to be so easy. You just went into a music store, and you picked up some guitars, and when you found one that just spoke to you, that's the one. And the problem isn't that there's not stores for you to walk in anymore. There's tons of great stores across the country, mom and pop stores everywhere. The problem is that you don't have to settle, and you know that, which means when you walk in a store and they have 5 Strats and you pick one up and you go, okay, I think I like this one the best of 5. That works for some players, but some players go, well, but this is the best of these 5, but I still don't love it because it's not the color I want. And you used to be like, remember those conversations you had with your friend? You'd be like, oh, I got a new Strat. And you're like, what color? And you go, oh, black. And they go, oh, I thought you wanted a white one. And you're like, oh, they didn't have white. So you got black. Now, because you can buy online, you can find exactly what you want. But finding, the guitars are just not so homogenized that they're just going to be the same. Not in most cases. So, yeah, it's true. And, the machines are making it better. The CNC machines are making it more consistent, but still not perfect. So, anyways, Meester said, more Meester. Meester did another one. Meester said, obsession over high-end PRS top wood seems conspicuous. Okay. Too much form over function. Lovely, but seems douchey. I'm laughing because that's something I would say. To about myself. Look, like I said, I am guilty of many things. That's why I always love it when somebody gets mad and unsubscribes to the channel on these live shows because I said something. Very rarely do I call anything out that I haven't done myself. Look, we're not perfect creatures. This is not an environment. If you're a logical person and you want all your guitar playing to be logical and your life to be logical, I don't know how to relate to that. This is all just emotional for me. Like you're fronting, as the kids say. Like you're fronting, yes. Okay, Meester, it's a great point. And I don't want to pick on just PRS. I mean, not for any other reason than, because I do think for some reason when I think of the ultimate, the fancy top guitars, when I think of them, I think of PRS. Even though it's funny that PRS, interesting enough, I always think it's funny that PRS is like who we kind of think of when we think of those really fancy wood tops. When to me, Carvin, not even Kiesel, back in the day, Carvin, do you guys remember all the Carvin guitars? Those wood tops they put private stock PRS to shame. And that was just guitars they were making. Every time you turn around, there was some lavish, beautiful quilted guitar and some cool color. Carvin probably had the most beautiful wood tops I've probably ever seen consistently. But back to the whole fancy. Look, I have a friend, he said this great thing. I love it. He said, I'm not into fancy furniture, and sometimes fancy guitars remind me of fancy furniture. It's a great quote, by the way. And because when he said that, I knew exactly what he meant. And actually, just so we're on the same page, he actually said that quote when we were at a PRS event in 2018. We were walking and they were looking at the private stocks. We were walking down a row of probably, 100 private stocks or something, 50, or there were so many. And we were talking to each other about why we didn't get that. I get why people like it. I just don't get it. If you look at my guitars, even my PRS right here, this blue one, it's not like, woo, right? The one Nathan made me is pretty exciting. But most of my guitars you see are painted. It's just not, I'm not into that as a look. But I totally understand why you would be. A beautiful piece of wood is like a piece of art. You know what I mean? But like art, you have to like that. So yeah. Yes, I understand what you're saying. There's, I've called, like I said, I called it out, called it a couple times a couple weeks ago when I said it was like pretentious, right? Sometimes you're pretentious. I feel, like I said, some guitars I have are pretentious. I just wanted them. I know what they mean when I have them. But ultimately, deep down, they're just part of my life experience as a guitar player and playing guitars and stuff. Like I said, at home, when I'm at home, not literally in my house, I mean at home with a guitar, I like the guitars that are just very basic. I like Strats. I like Tellys. I like SGs. I'm drawn to this average kind of playing, average guitars, not the exotic ones. But I don't know that to be 100% true, and that's why I experiment with the more expensive kind of crazy guitars to see where I feel on this. So, which is why I like Schecter guitars all the time. I think they're just kind of like straightforward. It's everything you wanted from PRS, but you don't have to pay all the money and you don't have to get all that weird exotic stuff. Bradley says, no questions, get a beer or some strings on me. Finally became a patron. I appreciate that. As you guys know, the patrons support this live show every week. It may not seem like a big deal, but it is a big deal. I specifically the patrons, whether you guys realize it, obviously you guys super chats. This is great. This live show is fun for me. This podcast is fun for me. I hope it's fun for you. But realistically, it's grown, and it's grown to a point where, I've just did my second no. In other words, I've now told two companies no to sponsoring the podcast. They want to sponsor it, like for the year. And so it's just like a Joe Rogan podcast. Every 20 minutes, I gotta be like, brought to you by, and it's great because I go like, no, it's sponsored by the patrons and by the super chats, and it's our show, and I like it that way. And if in a perfect world, I've told you, in a perfect world, I wouldn't work with companies at all. Which is probably, when I say that, probably why a lot of companies don't want to work with me. I'm laughing because I just know, sometimes, but I'm pretty upfront with the companies. Like, I work with companies as much as I can tolerate, because obviously I can't, the channel's not huge. If I got 200,000 views per video, you don't need millions, but if you got hundreds of thousand views per, video, and I was pulling, money to where I can pull in the money, pay bills, and then buy all this gear and literally review it and stuff, I would totally do it. It'd be a dream come true. I don't know how to get there. I've never seen a channel be able to pull it off. The only channels that come close are the channels that own their own, like Andertons. They literally have to sell you this stuff to do that. But, and so, like I said, but deep down, that's like where I would like to be. So right now, it's as simple as I do as much non-sponsored content as I can. And when I do have sponsors involved, they pretty much have to play to our games. So I'm just reading comments as I'm talking, which is always a bad idea. I'm just reading some of you guys' comments. But like I said, if we get there, I found the balance for me over the years. I like it. Like I said, we'll keep pushing towards the live show. I like to be 100% fan funded. It'd be awesome. But you probably want me to answer questions. Let's see. Jeffrey, I want to read your comment. I love this comment. It's probably the most common comment I've ever read, and I totally understand it, man. He says, I want to like PRS, but can't. It just can't. You know what? I think that I've heard that the most. Reason why I like that comment, what a beautiful comment. I've heard it not only with PRS, but mostly PRS. I've heard it with Gibson. I've heard it with Fender. Like, I want to like those things. I find that so, I want to say refreshing. So refreshing. So what a great way to explain a situation. Like, I want to like this, I just don't get it, right? Okay, like you're talking about sushi. Like, I want to like sushi, I just tried it and I just don't get it. I understand that, and you know what? And the point of that is this: PRSs are just not that great, and SIRs are just not that great, Fenders are just not that great, and Gibsons are just not that great. They're good, and there's things to like about them. And you just don't worry about that. Find the thing you like. There are certain guitars I just don't like. Same thing as you. You know, I want to like them, but I just don't. I'm trying to think of a guitar that I want to like that I just don't. And I'm probably, let me try to think of an example, good example, so I can be on the same page as you. What's a guitar that I want to like? Because not the guitar I don't like. I'm talking about a guitar I want to like, but I just don't. I'm going to say BC Rich for me. Like, I want to like them. You know what? Every time I look at BC Rich on Reverb and online, probably 2 to 3 times a week, I look at them. I look at the pointy ones, the Warlocks, right? All the wacky stuff, the War Beast, the Beast, the Virgin, the Bitch, all of them, the Mockingbird, and I go, oh, and I put them in my watch thing, and I think I want them. And for some reason, I've owned a couple BC Rich over time, just never found it. Never found one that just, I just don't want to bond with it. But I want to like them, because to me, they're just so outrageously indifferent. They're just, even though they're kind of 80s now, they're still just different. It's like, look, all my guitars look like the same damn guitar over and over again. Sometimes it gets a little old. You can only paint a Strat so many colors before you're like, okay, this is a Strat. Oh, BC Rich 581 says I can't like Rick basses. That's another one too. Rickenbacker. Like I said, I had a Rickenbacker guitar. I've never owned a Rickenbacker bass. I've just worked on them. Don't enjoy working on the dual truss rod. When I say don't enjoy it, I mean it's fine. It's just, it's not fun. Yeah, same thing. Want to like them. Love the way they sound. I mean, like I said, I appreciate them is what I'm trying to say. I appreciate them. Just they don't do it for me when I play them. So yeah. So the reason I tell you that is that don't say it apologetically is what I'm trying to say. I think you did it with like I said, you did it with class. You say, look, I want to like this. I just don't. You didn't say anyone that likes this is a moron. That's not the way to think of it. PRS is a guitar company. I've said many times, I'm at odds with PRS guitars all the time in the idea that I don't love the core guitars. I like their pickups. I like the way they sound. I do. I actually like the way PRS guitars sound. I'm not really into the whole, like I said, the fancy wood thing doesn't really do it for me. And I don't like the volute little carve thingy on the arm. That's not my thing. So like I said, I like my S2. I like my Mira. I like those more so. The one Nathan made for me where they took down the edge a little bit. They took it down. It's not as pronounced. I don't know if I said that in the video, but it's not. And yeah. And like I said, don't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if one day soon you see that all my PRSs are gone besides my S2s, Miras, the one Nathan made me. That's pretty much it. You know what? The SE hollow body, Carol is saying, I love the PRS SE hollow body. I don't really care what other people like or don't like. Isn't playing guitar about making yourself happy? Yes. Yeah. He says, why waste mental energy on something that doesn't appeal to you? Sure, of course. But great point. But because it's not so simple, I think, all the time. It's a discovery process, is what I'm trying to say. I love that you could live decades on this planet doing something you love, like playing an instrument, and still not really have 100% clue on what you like and don't like still. I find that fascinating to me. I love that. One of the things that appeals to me about music is the same thing that appeals to me about guitar. Sure, do I love certain types of music? Absolutely. Do I like certain bands? Absolutely. Do I love certain type of guitars? Absolutely. But man, I hope you never. I'll finish up a couple of super chats and then we'll end on this note. I hope you never in your life lose the feeling of what it's like to discover new music. That feeling, whether you're 16 or 60, feels the same. It's like a new music is amazing. In fact, as you get older, as we all know, as you get older, it gets harder to find the new music because as you've heard all the good music, you've heard it. Discovering to me a new pedal, a new guitar, a new amp, new music, man, it's a drug. There's no other drug like it for me. There's just nothing like it. It's amazing. And it happens just so spontaneously. You can try. I try to fake it happen, but it just doesn't happen. Groovy Muse Lesson says, do you think PRS would ever do a signature pointed guitar? You know what, Scott, they did this. They made some wacky guitar for Tremonti. If you Google it, and look, PRS guitars is, and I don't want to say, because I don't want to put Fender in the same boat, but they're kind of the same boat. But they're definitely in the same boat as Gibson. PRS guitars is not going to innovate at this point, in my opinion, right? They're just going to do what Gibson does and what Fender does. They're going to rest on the laurels. Look, we already see it with Marshall. All the big players, they dominate the market. They sell the one thing that works. And if anything, PRS has been going backwards for many years. And I always get so much crap from people whenever I talk about anything about PRS that's negative. Isn't that funny? But it's true. Like I said, PRS's biggest innovations in guitars in the last 5 years has been they made a Les Paul and they made a Strat. I'm just waiting for the PRS Telly, right? Say what you will about Paul and PRS guitars. If I don't lose my voice, hold on. Now I'm in suspense. Dude, the 513 and guitars like that, at least he was pushing in envelopes. He was doing different things, and I'm not saying he doesn't do anything now. I'm just saying they, as a company, you can tell as companies get successful, they do what's smart for them, which is to go, okay, everybody wants this and we're going to make lots more of that. And then what they do is they go, well, what else do people buy that we don't make? And they go, oh, apparently they go, people buy Strats. Then we'll make Strats, right? Paul, if you really look at the PRS guitars since in the last decade, they started coming out with acoustics. Remember they were doing their high-end, crazy expensive American acoustics? If you look at what they were doing with acoustics, they were trying to really kind of make high-end, innovative acoustics. And then again, that went to the wayside for whatever reason, and then it's back to this. And again, we like those brands. We like what they're doing. But, the Juggernaut says, I love the Starla. Perfect example. I think when I think of PRS, I think of the Starla, the Vela, I think the Mira, mostly the Vela and the Starla. Unique, right? I mean, the Starla had those cool, like Filtertron-esque kind of pickups, a Bigsby bridge on it. It was different vibed. And again, it didn't do very well, and that's what big companies do. If it doesn't do very well, it goes away. It just goes away. There's no world where it could live, right? The Starlas now have to be an SE, an import model, which is fine, but I mean, there's no S2 Starla, which I'm like, well, maybe they do have an S2 Starla. I thought they got rid of it. If I'm wrong, I apologize for that, because I thought they got rid of it, because I can't keep track of what they're getting rid of right now, S2s. Hold on. This is the Vela, yes. By the way, the Vela is the guitar I think I want the most right now from them. One God 777 did a super sticker. All right, we're going to cinch this up. We have 3 super chats, which is Jeff, Mike, and Gil. Gil said, happy belated birthday. Have a beer on me. I will do that. So where I live, and again, the whole world's gone bat shit crazy. And, it's tough. But where I live, they took away the mask restrictions for the gym. And so I'm back in the gym. I've been back in the gym for the last week. Every day. I go every day. Like I was doing before COVID. I had dropped like 20, 30 pounds right before COVID. It was perfect timing, right? Feeling great, going the right. And so anyways, that's my point when you're mentioning beer is I have no beer because I got to, do the gym thing. But I might have beer tonight to say success. But yeah, so it's nice. So I'm hoping, like I said, I hopefully get to stay in the gym. I really do not enjoy going outside this time of year here. It's when it's hot. Mike says, hey, Phil, any opinion on a Seymour Duncan 78? Thinking of swapping it for my JB. For one, I've heard it's a little less output. Thanks. That's not how, probably accurate, but that's not how I would think of it. The 78 is really like their take on the Eddie Van Halen. I guess the story goes like Eddie Van Halen had Seymour make this pickup. He didn't do an endorsed model, but, they made it. I played the 78. I put 78s in the guitars. I like it. Again, not as low. To me, the JB is real full because it's got a lot of low end punch, and some people don't like that. They call it muddy. Some players don't like it to their ear. To me, here's what I would tell you is this: if you like the JB, I would not do the 78. I think you're fine. But if you don't love your JB, the 78 might be the thing for you, because that's what I would so as a suggestion. If somebody said, "Hey, I got a guitar, it's got a JB, don't love it. What do you suggest?" 78. I'd go with it. It's a cool pickup. Jeff says, "Great show." Oh, thanks. Considering his first Gibson. Okay, either a Gold Top 54 or a Junior with a wraparound bridge. Any intonation concerns with wraparound versus ABR bridges? Oh, absolutely. Wraparound bridges can be a nightmare. Although, as I always point out, everyone on the internet is going to tell you 10 different things. So I understand that. So I'll give you this and then you'll get 9 other answers. Although I would tell you that wraparound bridges are problematic, just like 3 saddle bridges on Telecasters. I also have to mention that those same bridges are on amazing albums. You know what I mean? So for one person could say, hey, this is a problem. For other people, they just made great music on it. I have no issues with the wraparound bridge. However, what I will tell you is that it also depends on the gauge of strings you use, whether you use a wound G or not, plain G string, your tuning, what you're doing with that. I would not put a whole lot of worry into it, is what I'm saying. But be prepared that if that's something you're concerned about, you could always go with a intonatable wraparound bridge. So there you go. I would. That's something to think about. It's kind of funny, right? Like I said, remember my favorite guitar is my Mira. I mean, that's the guitar I play the most, and it's a 1-piece wraparound bridge. I've never had a problem with it. So there you go. Okay, Meester says Velas, he's talking about the PRS Vela, look like Donables. I don't know what that is, so I'm going to, now I'm curious. I can't let you guys go until I Google this. I'm thinking Donables. I don't know what this is. Oh, it's got to be a guitar, because when I put up Donables, the guitar comes up. Really? Yeah, let me share. Ooh, look at that. He's saying the Vela looks like this. Sure. To me, the Vela like this is this 60s kind of, weird kind of vibe, cool, different guitar. That'd be how I explain it. So I can see that. The thing I like about Vela is, if you can pick them up used, you can get a good deal on them. They look great. I think they play great. So, like I said, I'm still thinking about getting one. But I'm not getting anything unless something goes. So, like I said, I don't know what would be on the chopping block right now. And as I just told somebody yesterday, somebody was talking about a pedal, and they were suggesting a pedal to me, and I said I'd love to get a pedal, but I got videos to make on the pedals. I got pedals at the house I got to make videos on, so it's hard to one of the drawbacks, not a complaint by any means, but one of the drawbacks of doing this gig is sometimes you're like, oh, I want to get something new, but you're like, oh, I probably should take the stuff that I got to do videos and do videos with it first. I don't have time for that. Brian says that guitar looks like a relish guitar. I think all those kind of guitars in that same vein kind of vibe. So, vibe. All right. On that note, I'm going to call it. Thank you, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I hope you guys enjoyed hanging out. Obviously, we'll be doing it next Friday as well. And thank you guys so much for all the kind birthday wishes. And I hope you guys enjoyed the updates and everything, like I said. And I hope you have a great weekend and you play some guitar. That's what I would recommend. In fact, as soon as this is over, go start playing guitar. All right, guys, on that note, thank you so much for your time. Till the next time, know your gear.